First off, let me apologize for us not making it through what we were trying to do on Friday. Let me just apologize for that. What I want to do is go through the pictographs that we were working on last week, okay? On Friday. I want to go through 10 problems like that. Hopefully, we can make it through those. What I want you to do is look at the answer choices and mark your answer. And each one of them, I'm going to go through and try to show you how we would get to the right answer. So, the first one, how many dollars did Jim make doing his chores in March? You have to look at this chart. First, you look at the key down here, and that lets you know that for every dollar, each one of those green things is going to actually be worth 7. So we go to March, and there are 3 of them. And so for number 1, there's 1, 2, 3. And now I'm back on the screen over here in the green. So there's 1, 2, 3. And our key tells us that each of these is worth 7. So that one's worth 7. The second one's worth 7. And the third one's worth 7. So you have 2 ways that you can solve this problem. You can do 7 plus 7 plus 7, which, guys, 7 plus 7 is 14, and then you add this other 7 right here, and you'll get 21. And my hand was in the way, so here's what we did. I did 7 plus 7, and I got 14. Then I did 14 plus 7, and I got 21. It can also look like this. 7 plus 7 is 14. That's the first 2. And the third time is 14 plus 7. And that will give us the 21. You can also see that that's 7. How many times are there 7? That's 7 3 times. And so you can do 7 times 3, which will give you, I paused right there to give you time to think. 7 times 3 is 21. Okay? So then we would pick that answer, and then we're going to keep moving. We're going to go on to the next question. How many, I'm over here at the question. You see the mouse moving? I'm over here at the question. How many apples did Brendan eat in January? The question again, how many apples did Brendan eat in January? You come to the table and you look at the chart. Each apple is worth 2. So every time you see an apple, that actually stands for the number 2. And so we go up to January, and when you go up to January, you'll see that there are 2 apples. And I'm just going to do my apples like that. Okay? So that's 2 apples, and that's 2 apples. And what you can do there is, that is 2 apples plus 2 apples, which would give you 4. And you can also look at this and see that that's 2. That's the number 2. How many times is that the number 2? I gave you time to think about that. That's why I paused. And that should be 2. Now you can do 2 times 2, and that would equal 4. Okay? So in that case, your answer should be, I hope you said A. We're on to the next one. This one says, how many ice creams did the ice cream man sell in March? How many ice creams did the ice cream man sell in March? And if you'll look, it tells us that each ice cream cone is worth 8. So we find March and we see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ice cream cones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ice cream cones. And our table tells us, our key tells us that if you see an ice cream cone, then that equals 8. So inside each ice cream cone, or above it in this case, because I didn't leave enough room, that's worth 8, and that's worth 8, and that's worth 8, and that's worth 8, and that's worth 8. So how many ice cream cones are there for March? If you look at the table again, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can do 8. You can add 8 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm sorry, that's too many times. 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can do that, or you see that this is the number 8 over and over again. So there are 8. How many times are they going to be? How many times is 8 going to be added? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And knowing that 8 is going to be added 5 times, times is going to tell me that I can multiply it. Take a second and think about what 8 times 5 is. 8 times 5 is 40. I hope that is what you got. 8 times 5 is 40. So you should have picked answer D. Okay, let's move on to the next one. How many ice cream cones, how many ice creams did the ice cream man sell in January? So if you look at this chart right here, again, we have to look at the chart and it tells us, I'm over here at the problem on the right side, guys, that the ice cream cone equals 8 ice creams. So when we start this fourth problem, if you're going to come over and work the problem, which you should work the problem, please give yourself a chance to get it correct. Work the problems. Give yourself a chance to be correct. Okay? January had 3 ice cream cones. I drew the ice cream cones right over here on the paper that I'm writing on. My key tells me that if now I'm looking at the screen, I want to tell you where I'm going. I'm looking at the screen on the right where it tells me how many each ice cream cone is worth 8. I did that as a reminder, so I'll know that I can put 8 with each ice cream cone. Now, if I don't know my multiplication tables, I can do 8 plus 8 plus 8 and find the answer to that. Or I can come over here and I can recognize that it's the number 8 over and over again. How many times is it? It's 8. And how many times is it? 1, 2, 3. 8 times 3 equals 24. Okay? And so that is going to be B. Now I'm working through these, and what I'm trying to do now is I want you to see over and over again how this can happen, how you can work these problems if you see them on any kind of test. I'm talking about the test that you'll take next week, but I'm also talking about when you take tests or when you see problems or when you work things out on your own, okay? So I'm not just talking about tests, I'm talking about your real life things. Now, if you look up here, this says that that bill that they're showing you represents $100. And you have 4 people, Albert, Bernie, Chase, and Donald, and they have something to do with this amount of money. So let's find out what that is. So listen to me and read along with me. I'm on the screen on the right side. The pictograph shows the earnings of 4 men in 1 week, as well as whole notes representing $100. There can be quarter, half, and 3/4 notes. And they want us to find out how much Albert earned. So what we have to do is look up there at Albert, which was the first name. Okay, Albert's right up here on the first name. Now, how many whole dollar bills do we see for Albert? We see 1, 2, 3. That's a whole dollar bill, that's a whole bill, and that's a whole bill. Now let's look at this one. Is that a whole bill? The answer is no. Is it half of a bill? The answer is no. It's a quarter of a bill. So in that case, we would have to divide. We would have to know what 1/4 of $100 is. For the sake of making us through this, I'm going to tell you that 1/4 of a $100 bill is 25. So we're going to put a small one right here, okay, like that, so that we can know what the numbers mean. We know that this one is worth 100. If it's a whole one, it's worth 100. Okay. So that is what we have. And if it's not, if it's a 1/4 of one, a quarter is what they called it on the problem. But a quarter is the same as 1/4. That's 25. So to find out how much Albert earned in that month, we're going to add 100 plus 100 is 200. 200 plus another 100 is 300. And then 300 plus the 25 is 325. Let me show you again what I did so you can see why I did that. And we're going to check our answer in just a minute. He did $100 bill. He had three $100 bills. $100 bill plus another $100 bill is $200. The $200 plus the third $100 bill is 300. 300 plus 25 is 325. And so we're going to try a B, answer B. And that, they give you the explanation there. We're moving on to number 6, okay? How many ice creams did the ice cream man sell in February? So we're going to look down here at the key, and it tells us that every ice cream cone is worth 8 ice creams. We're going to count the ice cream cones in February. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. To make sure that I do this right, I am actually going to draw my own graph. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are my ice cream cones. Okay, let's just imagine that they actually look like ice cream cones. Each ice cream cone, according to my table over here in the green, each ice cream cone is worth 8. So here I go putting 8. 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. Okay? Now, that's 8 6 times. I can add 8 6 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can add 8 that many times over and over again. Okay? I can do that. Or I can come over here and I can do 8. The number is 8 that I see over and over again. How many times do I see it? I see it 6 times. Times means I'm going to have to multiply. And 8 times 6. I'm going to give you a second to think about what 8 times 6 is. Eight times 6, I hope you came up with 48. If you didn't, that's the same conversation where we talk about that you need to continue to review your multiplication facts. And there's their explanation, the same as mine. We're going on to the next one. How many apples did Ben eat in February? The question again, how many apples did Ben eat in February? You look down here at the yellow table, and it tells you that every apple equals 4 apples. Every time you see a picture of an apple, that equals 4 apples being eaten. So we have to come up to February. That's January, that's February, that's March. We have to come up to February and count how many apples do you see. How many apples do you see? You should be telling me that you see 3 apples. There's the first one, the second one, the third one. Now we look back at our table just to remind us that each picture of an apple is worth 4 apples. So that's 4 apples, that's 4, and that's 4. So to find out how many apples Ben ate in February, we can do 4 plus 4 plus 4. That will give us the correct answer, but we can also we can see that 4 is written over and over again. 4, how many times is it written? It's written 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. And times means multiply, so we can do 4 times 3. Figure out what 4 times 3 is. What answer would you choose? Now keep that in mind as I tell you that 4 times 3 equals 12. And so I don't know what you said, but you should have picked the answer C. Okay, let's move on. We're looking at another one of those pictographs with the $100 bills again. The pictograph shows the earnings of 4 men in 1 week, as well as whole notes representing 100. There can be quarter, half, and three-quarter notes. Now that's just reading the same thing that we read when we had a problem like that a few minutes ago. How much more did Donald earn than Bernie? So our problem, guys, is going to be how much more did Donald earn than Bernie? So Donald is going to have made the most. So we're going to do Donald minus Bernie. We're going to have to find out how much Donald made and subtract how much Bernie made. That's going to tell us how much more Donald made than Bernie. Okay? So if you look here, Donald has 1, 2, 3, 4 whole $100. So that's 100, 200, 300, 400, and that's a half of 1. So half of 100 is 50. So Donald, guys, is going to be 450. 450. Let me show you again. 100, 200, 300, 400, and that's half 1, so that's 450. Now we have to find out what Bernie has. Bernie has 100, 200, and that's not a whole $100 bill, and it's not half of 1. So it's more than half, but less than 100. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that one's going to be worth 75. So Bernie has 100, 275. So Bernie has 275. You'll see that I have written that on the paper. So we then have to subtract 450 minus 275. Now we're going to have to subtract. So I'm making this note on the side for those of us who are still having trouble regrouping. The note I'm writing on the side is that the top number is what you have, the bottom number is what you want to give away. If you have 0, can you give away 5? I hope that you said no. What do you have to do? I hope you said regroup or borrow. And so I would then ask, what do you have to do? You should then be telling me, oh, Mr. Green, you cross out the 5, make it a 4. Cross out the 0 and make it 10. Then you have 10 minus 5, and then you just counted in your head, or you knew automatically, whatever you did to tell me that 10 minus 5 is 5. Then we have the same question. You have 4, can you take away 7? Hold up 4 fingers, can you drop 7? I hope your answer was no, which means you then have to, I gave you time to say regroup or borrow, whichever phrase you are happy with saying is fine with me. So that means you have to come over to this 4, cross it out, and it turns into a, you should have said 3, and that turns this 4 into 14. Now you have 14 minus 7. 14 minus 7 is, I hope you said 7. Now you have 3. If you have 3, can you take away 2? If you have 3, can you take away 2? If you're not sure, hold up 3 fingers. Can you drop 2? When you do 3 minus 2, the answer is 1. So Donald minus Bernie is $175. Donald's amount, 450, minus Bernie's amount, 275, equals 175. So to answer the question, how much more did Donald earn than Bernie? The answer should be 175. Let's get these last couple done, and once these are done, then you will be moving on to something else, okay? So let's get these last couple done. The question here is, how many paintings did the painter sell in March? How many paintings did the painter sell in March? And you have to look at the yellow table, and you have to see that each painting equals 5, each picture equals 5 paintings. So we have to find March on the chart. That's JAN is January. FEB is February. MAR is March. So there are 4 pictures up there for March. 2, 3, 4. I just drew them on my paper. Okay? Now, my table over here in yellow tells me that each painting is worth 5. So I'm going to put a 5 right there, a 5 right there, a 5 right there, and a 5 right there. That tells me that I have to add 5 4 times. So I can do that and find the answer. Or I can look over here and I can say, that's 5 a whole bunch of times. So I can write 5. How many times do I see the number 5? 1, 2, 3, 4. And times means multiply, so I can do 5 times 4. Figure out what 5 times 4 equals. 5 times 4 should be 20. Hopefully that's what you said. Let's check and see if we got the right answer. And this one says we did. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to the next one, which will be the last one, okay? So if a pictograph represents 10,000 people, then what does this picture equal? And I have to spread that out a little bit, okay? Oh, that's enough. That's enough right there. We can still see it all. So each smiley face equals 10,000. How many smiley faces are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's not a whole one, but a half one. So how many whole pictures do we see? 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And here's a math question for you. If you see half of a face, it's worth half of 10,000. What is half of 10,000? I hope you said 5,000. So we had, again, 10 smile faces, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we had a half of one, which is going to be 5,000. Okay? So, as we can add 10,000 10 times, or we can do 10,000 times 10. But since we're working with tens, guys, let me show you something. 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, 80,000, 90,000, 100,000. So that's 100,000 plus 5,000. And that's going to be 105,000. Let's go through that again. Instead of adding 10,000 plus 10,000 plus 10,000 and doing that 10 times, this is what I did. I went 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, 80,000, 90,000, 100,000. So I wrote the 100,000, then I added the 5,000. And I know I'm going kind of fast because I'm already taking longer than I wanted to. I wanted to go through these problems because I know we ran because of because we didn't get through with them on Friday. So let me just say that. And so 10,000 times 10 is 100,000. Okay? So we're going to see if it's 105,000. And that's the same explanation. They gave the same explanation that I did. There's still. Wait a minute now. I thought we did all these questions. I thought we did all the questions. We're going to stop right there because I thought we did them all. Looks like they're running through some of the same questions again. But we're going to stop right there. We did 10 problems with the pictograph. And I hope that that made some sense of what I was trying to show you last week. So you're about to be finding out what else you're going to do next.